you guys, we got clear to close. Clear to close is what everybody is waiting for on every transaction. It means the lender, the title company, the seller, the buyer, all the crazy agents involved, everybody is ready to meet at the closing table and sail this puppy home and close the transaction. This one was a very difficult one. It was listed by another agent before. That agent was very unexperienced, overpriced, created crickets. I call it killing the listing by being overpriced. And I believe month 5 or so, I took over. Finally, the first agreement was expired. The agent was almost unterminatable. In Keller Williams, what we do, if someone for whatever reason doesn't like us, we break up right away. We were in love, now we're not anymore. Kiss it goodbye as fast as you can. Not that we have it all the time, but that is a policy in place. We just let go right away. Of course, if people's trust is broken, or they don't like you anymore, or whatever, or you don't like your clients anymore, it is better to end it before more damage is done. But this agent would not let go. He hung in there like a pit bull, and we had to wait for expiration. And then Keller Williams was able to take over. And with the support of the whole team, we had other agents hosting open houses and being very supportive. And of course, advertising the listing on all platforms in every channel, postcards, door knocking, neighbors open house, you name it, we did it. Most of it myself, and a little bit with open houses help of other agents. Now we are bringing it home. How do you say in American language, slam dunk. So we have clear to close finally. And this one is one of the more painful, where we actually really had to labor, because when someone already really messed up, it is sometimes hard to get the cart out of the dirt, to get us unstuck, to get new interest on such an old listing that basically already died multiple times. And we sold it once. We actually had what is very rare and very unlucky in this constellation. We had a buyer not disclosing contingencies. We had to move on and find a new buyer. And guess what? We turned around, found a new buyer. We say in real estate, when you were able to sell it once, you are able to sell it a second time. That means when for whatever reason we fall out of contract, in this case it was a buyer pretending to be able to perform, but they were not, and they disclosed that after going under contract. That is not ethical, and we are not supposed to work like that, but it actually does happen. So then the question is, like a Navy SEAL, stuff happens, unexpected things happen. How do you combat that? How do you come back from that? So we put it back on the market, kept our motivation up, found a new buyer, and this buyer actually is fully qualified. Now, as we have clear to close, obviously fully qualified, very motivated, and they're very happy to get this house. And it's a beautiful home in a good location, great access to all the highways, etc. So there is someone loving that house, and like we say, we sold it once, we will sell it a second time. In this market, actually, with interest rate moving on us, going up and down, we are just around the 7%, anything between 6.7 and 7.1 right now. That's what we see a whole lot on the pre-approvals and then on the closings. But we do have a good percentage right now of buyers falling out, so we need to prepare our sellers for that. About 20% of transactions, what I hear from other agents and in my mastermind calls, are not seeing the closing table for whatever reason. Usually it is the buyer not being able to perform. It is very rarely the seller. The seller basically is held accountable to perform. The buyer actually has multiple exits and is usually in the stronger position once under contract. So we do see that, but if a property is in high demand, we have very low inventory. We also have very little buyers. So it is actually balancing itself out a little bit right now. So the properties that are in a good condition and are priced right, they're moving quickly, and we do find buyers. And even in that rare case that a pre-approved buyer is not able to perform, or decides to not perform, or decides the negotiation did not go as aggressive as they were planning and they decide to terminate, what actually just happened recently. We just put it back on the market, we keep our motivation up, and we just look for the next buyer, because there will be someone who likes this property for the right price and is willing to move forward and is able to move forward, and that is what we're looking for. And besides doing all our due diligence, we cannot always tell the future. Sometimes you get very unlucky on an appraisal, very rare, but it does happen that just an appraiser totally rains on your parade, and that there is no chance to order your own appraisal to convince this appraiser. Or sometimes, let's say a buyer buys the Lamborghini in cash on the way to closing. That never happened, but just to make it understandable, of course they lose the cash, they're not able to perform anymore. And some other people mess around with their credit right before closing. We are supposed to educate our buyers that this doesn't happen, but it does happen. And sometimes interest rate moving, and when a buyer is very, very tightly pre-approved, it can actually kick them out of the race, that now they cannot afford that higher mortgage due to moving interest rates, and all of a sudden they lose financing. That's why we try to have a solid buyer that has a little bit of wiggle room, even if interest rate moves. But sometimes we don't get to pick. Sometimes we just have one high offer and we better execute with them, or we lose from the get-go a big amount of money. So those are all the things that we discuss with our sellers when the question arises which buyer we are executing with, and there are conversations with the buyer's agent and with the lender to find out how solid is their financing, and then we pick the best and move forward. So this was just a little story, and a happy clear to close day. If you have any friends or family that need a motivated, hungry agent, I would definitely consider talking to them. No, okay, to be honest, I would be totally honored to talk to them. I am always hungry. I want to double my numbers this year, and the market is not really helpful for that, but that doesn't mean I'm giving up on my goal. So if you want to help me to keep the lights on, to buy the kids new winter shoes, that would be very much appreciated. Give me a call, 832-444-4923, and I will treat your peeps like royalty. Whoever comes in as a referral is like on an extra VIP list with me, and they will be made happy. I promise you that, as much as I can help it. Real estate is always a bumpy road. There will be some hindrances that we have to overcome, but I will be holding their hand. I will explain step by step what we are doing and how to get them successful to the finishing line. And I promise to be totally bold and honest with them, so that at no time they get the feeling they're spongy, they don't know where we are at or what could actually happen, or that they're surprised by maybe not so good outcome. What can also happen, sometimes we need to renegotiate, and that is normal too. So I'm just setting the expectations correctly, hopefully, and have my peeps educated at all times. And usually worst case scenario is not happening. Usually we get our peeps pretty straight to the closing table. Yeah, so that is what I offer, and that is what I really love to do. I love to negotiate. I love to educate. I have a little bit of a teacher in me, in case you didn't know. But usually I put on my boxing gloves, and we don't really need to fight, and we just figure it out in a decent manner and get everybody safely to the closing table without super large renegotiations. Okay, if you have any real estate questions, 832-444-4923. I would love to chat with you. And if you have friends or family needing a good agent, I would be honored if you put us in a 3-way text message and get us connected. Okay, you guys have a wonderful day. Bye bye.